back to the water cooler, everybody. Hey, speaking of double standards, I don't know about you, but I'm old enough to remember when President Trump encouraged protesters to march, there it is, highlighted, peacefully to the Capitol on January 6th, only to result in the left and the media losing their minds over him inciting an insurrection. Somehow, some way, that's what they thought. Oh, and he was also banned on Twitter, might I add. But that's a fate that mysteriously seems to only be reserved for Republicans that once again aren't even inciting anything. Because when it comes to Democrats, it's a completely different story. For example, remember 2 years ago, Chuck Schumer made some very threatening remarks towards Justice Brett Kavanaugh regarding the coming Roe v. Wade decision. Have a look.
I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions.
Chucky, I'd argue what he just said there is far closer to inciting violence than encouraging a peaceful protest will ever be. And in fact, Senator Schumer, Chucky, they've already arrested someone for, wait for it, plotting to kill Kavanaugh. And yet, utter silence from big tech, the media, and the left. It is shocking. Joining me now to discuss this and so much more is candidate for Arizona Attorney General Rodney Glassman. Rodney, great to have you on the show, sir.
David, thank you for having me on.
Well, this isn't the first time we've seen this double standard play out. Our good friend, in air quotes, Maxine Waters, for example, is the queen of threatening conservatives. And I know Democrats just blocked a bill that would have offered more security to the justices. But why did Republicans allow this precedent to go on to begin with? I mean, why don't Democrats face the same consequences for their far more violent threats?
Well, this is a classic and a perfect example of why we need to be electing America First conservative Republicans that are not just Republicans in name only, because we have to hold these Democrats to higher standards. We need fighters back in Washington, D.C., because they're threatening our lives. They're threatening our way of life. And whether it's Nancy Pelosi refusing to protect our justices, or whether it's the secretary for Joe Biden's press secretary, threatening and telling violent protesters to go and threaten our Supreme Court justices, we need Republicans that are conservative Republicans or real conservative Republicans that are going to fight back.
Rodney, the Democrats, the far left, have been doing this for a long time when it comes to double standards. Do you think voters are catching on? Because, like I said, it's been a long time. This has been going on decade after decade. And I could have asked this question 10, 20, 30 years ago, and people still continue to vote for these Democrats. Do you think anything's changing?
I think people are waking up. We just saw in California, the liberal district attorney who refused to protect police, who refuse to prosecute people committing violent crimes for all kinds of crimes, attacks on our police. They just tossed him out. And I think we're going to see more of that. But to your point, that's why as we approach these Republican primaries, it's important to elect real Republicans, to nominate real Republicans, real conservatives who are going to fight, because we voters, our Republican voters, have to be careful of who we put forward, because we need people that are actually going to fight when they get there.
Right, and I know you're definitely doing that in Arizona. We'll get to that in a moment. It's no secret Republicans lack a backbone, which is why we're in the mess that we're in as a country. They constantly acquiesce to the left. We saw this just yesterday when we had 10 Republicans vote alongside Democrats to increase the age to buy guns to 21. Of course, Adam Kinzinger is on the list. That's not a surprise. But why? Why? I mean, they know that's not going to fix anything. All it's going to do is continue to infringe on our Second Amendment rights.
Well, Dave, as you may know, I'm an Air Force prosecutor. I now serve as a major in the United States Air Force, JAG Corps, as a reservist, but assigned to the active duty units. And in our country, these same liberal Democrats are perfectly fine with conscription. They're perfectly fine with the idea that they can force an 18-year-old to serve in the military. And now they're voting along with these rhino Republicans to tell those same 18-year-olds that they can serve in the military, that they can no longer buy guns. It makes no sense. It shall not infringe. And that's what it means. And so it's scary that these same people that would allow people like us to serve in the military are now saying they can't buy guns. It makes no sense. And once again, it goes back to America First candidates conservative Republicans, because these rhinos are just joining the Democrats and doing what's wrong for our country.
What's the take out there in Arizona regarding what's happening on the gun issue? Because that's I want to call it the wild, wild west, but it's the mountain west, if you will. It's a different mentality for sure than New York and LA and all those places. So what's the sense in terms of Arizona and the political climate out there? Because whether it be a red state or a blue state, it's definitely a swing state for sure. How do you determine how this gun debate will play out in places like Arizona, and will that help candidates like yourself and Republicans overall?
Well, David, thank you for asking about Arizona. I can tell you, as Arizona's next attorney general, should the Congress, should Joe Biden try to take away our guns, I will be the attorney general that files that lawsuit for that unconstitutional legislation and be back in front of our Trump-appointed Supreme Court to defend our rights to guns. As you know, in our United States Constitution, it shall not infringe. In Arizona, we take it even further in our Constitution. It shall not impair. Arizona, we believe in access to guns. We believe in the Second Amendment. We believe in protecting our freedoms. And so in Arizona, we are not going to allow that to stand. And that's why we're focused on having an attorney general here that's going to fight and be ready to sue the administration every step of the way when Joe Biden and these liberals in D.C. and our rhino congressmen try to take away our guns.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, and words are important. You say, obviously, it shall not infringe. We all know that is for sure. That's actually in the Constitution. You say impair. So you're adding that to infringe, not replacing
No,
it.
in Arizona, our Arizona Constitution is actually even broader than infringe. It is shall not impair in any way.
It says impair.
That's the Arizona Constitution. You asked about Arizona. That's the Constitution that I'm going to be protecting, as well as our federal Constitution as the next Arizona Attorney General. And so we will fight every step of the way anytime the government tries to get in the way of our freedoms.
Rodney, why was that put in there? Do you know? I mean, why? I mean, shall not infringe. It was pretty good for the founders, pretty good for the Second Amendment. Why was impair put in the Arizona Constitution?
Because as you shared, Arizona, one of the last states to join, we believe in our freedoms, and we want those protections to be as broad as possible, which they need to be. My slogan for my campaign, David, is my job as Attorney General is to protect Arizonans from the government. And that doesn't just mean the federal government. It also means our state government when they try to shut down our businesses or take away our guns. It means our local government when they try to attack our police and take away their ability to protect our families. And it means our school districts when they're trying to push critical race theory and human sexuality, or try to limit Arizonans' ability to protect themselves. And that's what's happening. You see, we have all these Democrats and rhinos now trying to take away our guns, but we still have yet to hear from our national leaders or our local leaders about the number one issue that impacts gun violence, education, drug use, or depression, and that's the importance of family, the most conservative value that we can be promoting, the importance of family values. And that's what I'll be doing as Attorney General, and that's part of the rich tradition of the state of Arizona.
I've got about 30 seconds or so. And you're running your own race. You have nothing to do necessarily with Kari Lake and Kelly Ward and all those folks, but Kari Lake's gotten a lot of attention running for governor in Arizona. She's a pistol. She's a firebrand. Kelly Ward is too. Do you see yourself in that same ilk of not playing around?
It is about not playing around. And as I always, when I'm visiting with Kari, who's a friend, her daughter babysits for us. Our dogs have the same name. The reality is that I want to work with a Republican governor that's going to be a fighter, because next to that Republican governor, they're going to need a great attorney general who knows how to do the job, who's done the job before. And that's why I'm proud to have the support of every law enforcement association across Arizona that's endorsed in our race. And I'm excited about working with other America First candidates, because we need a fighter that's going to push back on these liberal Democrats and the rhinos back in Washington, D.C. here at home. And so Kari's a friend, and I look forward to working with her.
Rodney Glassman, really appreciate it. Now we know that you and Kari Lake share names as it relates to your dogs. Good to know. Very good to know. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks a ton.
Yeah, look, one thing about Arizona, they've been through a lot out there with voter fraud and all of that. And that's where you separate the pretenders from the contenders. That's what we're finding out there in the great state of Arizona. Back in a moment.